Take me home tonight. Listen, honey, just like Ronnie said. Just like Ronnie said.
All right. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the unofficial official pod from Straight No Chaser. As always, I am Mike Lukenbill. I'm here with Seggy and Tyler, as always. And if you are listening on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get it, you won't know this. But if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see that we have another guest with us this week, a very special guest, one of the original members of Straight No Chaser, one of the best arrangers in Straight No Chaser, one of the best musicians, and the last guy that we've had on, because we're going to save the best for last. If you've been listening, you know we've had the guys on through the weeks that we've been on tour. So this will wrap up our segment of having all the guys on. So without any further ado, please welcome Walter Chase to the pod.
Thanks for having me.
Walt,
Hi.
nice to see you. Thanks for making time for us today.
I'm so glad that you asked me to be on your
Thanks for
pod.
taking
Absolutely.
time out of your busy day off.
Day off, heck yeah.
To come and join us.
Days off can be busy
They
because you have to sleep in a little bit later, right?
Right.
And then you have to squeeze in a movie, right?
Shower.
And then there's shower,
Yeah.
workout. Before you know it, you've only got 6 more hours left in your day off.
Well, I gotta be asleep by 12, so
If Molly's listening to this, I'm sure she's slamming something down right now.
She's
in
not listening.
frustration.
No way.
I'm sure she will.
She has way too much to do.
She's
Well,
probably seeing a movie.
Yeah. Yeah, she might be.
I hope so. I hope she is.
Walt, we're so happy to have you on. It's nice of you to join us. Thank you. As we've been going through this, we're going to have a conversation with Walt about all things music, about how he got started in music, and about the last week and a half of shows. As you guys know, the last time that we were with you, we came to you from San Diego, and that was the week prior to when we were off. So there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of shows to recap. So we're looking forward to recapping that with you. But I'd like to start off, if that's okay with you guys, I'd like to ask you just about your background. So you grew up in Easton. Were you always into music? Is it always something that you knew that you wanted to do? Like, how did you discover your love just for music as you were growing up?
I started singing like most people do, which is in church. I would go every weekend. And my sister had an incredible voice. She's a year older than I am. My mom has a very beautiful voice, very quiet though. And my dad would just basically like stare forward and not sing, but I didn't mind. And then when my little brother was born, the 3 of us were like just crushing it. So as always, that's like one of my first memories of singing. And then elementary school, like there was choir in 4th and 5th grade. And I got a solo when I was in 5th grade. And one of the,
Do you remember what the solo was?
it was There's Always Tomorrow, which is a song from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, that animated special.
The claymation one?
And when I finished doing it at the elementary school choir show, the people from the middle school came up and said, "Hey, we have musicals that we do every year. You should consider trying out for it." So I was just like, that's cool. So then it was a lot of musicals, a lot of just doing things like with productions outside of school. And then obviously it kicks in like high school where there's 5 choirs that you're in. And my high school music teacher is the reason why I went to Indiana. When I was in 10th grade, he started teaching me Finale music software, all of my music
how lucky
theory.
are you?
He's the goat at Finale. It's amazing how much he knows about
Now, RIP, Finale's done. Now I got to learn something else. But with Finale, he taught me 3 years of music theory. So when I got to Indiana, I tested out of all theory and I was able to like write sheet music. So people were paying me to do sheet music.
Do Finale sheet music before you got to Indiana.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
That's crazy. That's, for people that don't know, Finale is a digital music writing
Sheet music
platform. So all of your sheet music you do on Finale or Sibelius, or what's it called now? It's is it M something? Some conglomerate bought Finale and they're going to phase it out.
We don't know what it's called.
yeah, Avid has Cakewalk, or
Cakewalk,
I forget what it is, but Music Score is one of them too. Yeah, there's a program that, anyway, I'm going to have to switch it over.
Yeah.
But so then, yeah, when I got to Indiana, I should go back in my high school with all the choirs and stuff that I was doing. My senior year, I founded my first a cappella group. It was a 6-guy a cappella group. we were called Next in Line, which was
Okay. I didn't
obviously
know that.
a takeoff of Boys to Men, and we sang every Boys to Men song that was ever written. And
Is
then
that what got you in acapella?
I was going to
Boys to Men?
ask, why did you decide to start that? Like,
well, yeah, there was groups at UPenn that used to do assemblies, or I would go down there and I just started following the groups at UPenn. There was a group at Rochester that I was following as well. They had come down for an assembly. So there was a lot of acapella in my life, and I was obsessed with rockapella, obsessed with the real group, obsessed with Take
Mhm.
Six already. So it's like I actually did an arrangement of one of the Take Six songs that was just brutal. Imagine 17 trying to arrange a Take
Yeah.
Six
Oh.
song.
and how you arranged
I
it,
can't
or
imagine doing
No, no,
that.
and how you guys sang
transcribed
it?
I
and how you
transcribed
guys
it.
sung
We
it. I
sung it,
mean-
and it was awful. God, awful. Because think about how intricate
Yeah.
those harmonies are
Oh.
and stuff, and none of us were tenors. Like when
Yeah.
you're that age, you're just all like tenor twos, or you're singing falsetto.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then we got to Indiana. I met a couple guys in Hoosiers, and I had the quartet my freshman year.
As you're in high school and you're forming these groups and you're learning all this stuff, is that one of the reasons why you wanted to go to Indiana, just because it's a good music school, or was there any other reason why you decided?
I had no intentions of being a music ed major, but
Yeah.
I was doing musical theater, and I auditioned at a couple other schools for musical theater, and I got in there as musical theater. But then when my high school teacher, both my choir and my band teacher, just randomly in like January, as I was like doing auditions and stuff, they're like, "Have you applied to Indiana?" I was like, because I'm in Pennsylvania, so that's a 12-hour drive.
Yeah,
I
kinda
knew
random.
nobody, like literally nobody, when I got to Indiana, except for meeting my roommate 2 weeks earlier.
Yeah.
But it was like, they're like, "You should go audition there." And when I landed, okay, I'm definitely going here. Once you get on campus, you're like, it's over.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say like when I landed, there was nothing
Oh, no, I
here.
meant
and
when I
thought,
got to
I'm
Indiana.
not going there.
They're all from the Midwest. It's all the same, whether it's
yeah.
rural Pennsylvania or rural Michigan,
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Iowa or Indiana. It's all the same. It
I
all
didn't
looks
mean
the same.
landed. I meant once I got to
On campus.
Bloomington. Yeah.
I had the same experience. As soon as I
Bloomington
got to
is-
Bloomington.
sorry,
I was
Kyle.
in. No,
Bloomington is very much like State College. Anyone that's listening from Penn State, it's a lesser Bloomington. State College is like Bloomington is far superior than State
Especially
College,
in
but
football.
it has the same kind of vibe where it's like there's the college downtown, but like the surrounding areas are just unbelievably beautiful. And like the campus is modern. There's fraternities, sororities. Actually, I don't know if there's sororities at Penn State. There's like non-official
Mhm.
because it's considered brothels actually in Pennsylvania.
Jeez.
Anyway,
Oh wow.
what was
I
my
didn't know
point? Anyway, when I got to Bloomington, I was like, my dad's okay. The other schools were getting scholarships. Like, we're going to be out of state paying full board, and you're not doing musical theater because there wasn't a
I had
musical
sim-
theater
I
program.
had a
So,
similar experience in that way. I would say other schools are giving you money to go to school, and you want to go here to pay more to go out of state.
yeah, that are much closer.
Yeah.
I passed Penn
Yeah.
State on the way to Bloomington, and then there's another 7 hours after that. So it's
And there's no way to realize that, like at the time, oh man, like it's a big undertaking of our family. Like if we're going to send you here, because you're the oldest, right? You're the oldest of
no,
your
my
siblings.
my sister's a year older,
okay.
and my younger brother's 6 years
All
younger than I am.
But either way,
Oopsie.
like it shows they had a lot of faith in you to do what you said you were going to do, and that's awesome to hear that. Just because it is hard for if you go out of state and stuff, like it's really expensive.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
not an
yeah.
easy thing to do.
I don't know what it was when you went, but
know,
when
for
we went, it
families.
was like right around 30 grand a year.
It's a
Yeah,
lot.
it was-
I can't imagine it was any.
I'm a little
Yeah,
bit I'm a little
that-
bit older. It was, I think it was $150 a semester to go when I was there.
It was
But-
free pelts.
Hot dogs for 5
You
cents.
traded some sheep, and you were good to go.
Honestly, like big props to your high school teacher for teaching you
Yeah,
theory for
totally.
3 years. That is an insane leg up.
I'm not
when
sure
you
that
get-
happens, right? Like I don't think I had that option, although I wasn't into music at that time. But
I
like,
feel like the only people that really have that knowledge and experience are people that are like very proficient in piano because
sure.
you just learn that naturally as you learn piano.
Mhm.
But like I had zero knowledge of any musical theory when I got to college, and I loathed those classes. So
right.
being able to come in like testing out of all that must have been such an incredible feeling.
I got to tutor my friends too, which is fun. It was like a good barter. It was a good
I love
barter
that.
system.
Yeah.
Okay, so you get to Indiana and what? You get there in like 1997, 98?
1963, and then
Oh.
1995. Was my
1995,
freshman
okay.
year. Yeah.
Okay. And then obviously we know the group is in 1996, like is when you guys formed. But what were you doing in that year and a half or year as you just get there and you're feeling it out? Like what's that like?
So I didn't know a single person in Indiana when I
Right.
went there, so it was very intimidating. And then you get into a music school where you're like an ed major and everyone around you is like world class. So you're just like, what am I doing here? But the thing that saved me was singing Hoosiers, because immediately there was 120 people that were in my stratosphere. And one of those guys was Jerome, who is from Allentown. So right
Yeah.
away, I met somebody who was
Oh, right away.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Because he was in
really
singing
cool.
Hoosiers. Like I stood up and you're saying where you're from, and I said I was from Easton, and Jerome jumps up. Jerome is as a
No way he
sophomore-
would do that. No way.
Even as a sophomore, Jerome was probably the most popular person in singing Hoosiers. So like for him to be shouting me out across the room as being hometown, it was like it's immediately inroads there. And
That's awesome.
as the year went on, there was a vocal jazz ensemble that was out of singing Hoosiers, and they were doing a couple real group songs. I was like, boom, I'm in. I auditioned, I got in, and that's where I met Patrick O'Shea. That's where I met Dan Ponce, Randy, and Charlie. All 5 of us were in
Hold
this
on.
vocal jazz ensemble.
They were doing real group stuff.
Yeah, we
Wow.
did.
Wow.
We
Okay.
did acapella and
Who knew the real
acapella.
group out of
Randy and I did. Yeah.
No
Randy's
way.
a
And then-
big real group fan.
Yeah.
King
yeah.
Singers, real group.
the
Hey,
real
man,
group is from Sweden, and it's just an interesting thing that like anybody would know about a random vocal group from, and they're awesome.
Yeah.
But that's cool that you knew about them too. Like that's
We had done Chili Con Carne, which is one like their most popular song. Not like it's on the radio or anything, but like
Right.
for them, their most popular song was Chili Con Carne.
Yeah.
And Randy had also done it his senior year, I believe, as well. So we both had that in common. But so then I did a quartet with Charlie as the bass and 2 other members of Singing Hoosiers. We would just sing. We sang in the lobby before the Singing Hoosier concerts, and we would do like random like singing Valentines, and it was just a nice way to like sing for girls.
so you had the side thing, the jazz thing, and then the singing Hoosiers, and then a quartet thing on the side. What was the impetus to form those little groups out of that? Because that's eventually what happened with SNC, right? Obviously, Dan was like, "All right, I want to do this," and you too. But like, why did you want to do that?
Yeah, when I left high school, my high school teacher asked, he was like, "What is your goal when you get there?" And I was just like, "I want to teach high school choir like you do." It's just I had looked up to him, and then I said I want to be in an a cappella group on campus.
But
Got
you
to
formed
Indiana.
it because you thought, "Hey,
Yeah,
if I want to be in one, I'm going to go in."
there was really nothing there. There was like a random
I thought
women's
Delusions was
group.
there.
No, Delusion started.
No, yeah, we'll get to
my-
that. We'll
Oh,
get
sorry.
to
I'm
that.
sorry. I jumped ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Oh yeah, we'll get there.
But there was nothing there. So the vocal jazz ensemble was a cappella. So that was the way to go. And I had a book of Boys to Men stuff, and I was around now like real basses and real tenors. So it's okay. Like instead of like me squeaking out these tenor one Wanye parts, I can have this bro that.
Yeah.
And it's just mostly like for any kind of socialization. Cause again, like I was like hanging out with, there
yeah,
was
right.
most of
You
my
didn't know
friends,
anybody.
my freshman year and through college were these drummers in the Marching 100, Jeff Handel, Jay McKenna, like
Shout
all
out.
these guys. Yeah.
They live on your floor.
So I was roommates with Jeff Handel
What dorm were you in?
in what's it called? Right quad.
Yep.
So yeah, usually like when you first get to college and you're out of state, 3 of us don't really know anybody at the school. You luckily
I had
One
one
with your
person,
best friend.
you
Yeah.
and you knew us
I knew
because you were
kind of, yeah.
you were incoming already in the group. But like your immediate friends are the people that live on your floor because you're interacting with them so much. So it makes sense that you were hanging with those bros. And are you still tight with them today?
I wouldn't say tight, but I just saw Jeff in Charleston, not Charlotte. And then
I don't know if you heard the
did.
pod, but
Yeah.
there was a pod we called out. We were in, anyway. we called out.
awful.
Hey.
I'm so bad with names.
No, it was
Like,
funny. It was-
when I miss something just slightly, it's called a Walt. And when other people do it, it's also called a Walt. So
I'm actually shocked for the number of times we say the city name in a show. I'm shocked it doesn't happen so much more.
Yeah.
I'm done doing it though. I'm never gonna say the name of a
The
city on
best is
stage ever again.
in the beginning,
Even Easton, I'm not gonna say.
in the opening song. I won't say what the song is, but there's a moment where Jerome says, "What's up, city name?" And it's always hilarious because when he can't remember what city it is, he'll say, "What's up, everybody?" Jasper and I always look at each other and like start
I've
cracking
not
up.
noticed. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's when Luke Bob has that little breakdown part,
yeah.
and we're
Yeah.
moving to the center.
Right.
Every time, if he
L-
says,
I've noticed if anyone's gonna say it, like you have to be really confident.
Yeah.
in
Oh,
it,
yeah.
Because if you
Yep.
go for it, you better know.
and Mike Taylor, our former tour manager, did the greatest thing ever, started printing the city name on the set
Oh, yeah.
list. The problem is when you're coming up to do your intro, like you have to have that locked and loaded before you get up there. You can't get up there and then look down and read the city name.
Yeah.
So-
What's up?
I will never
Sure.
say. I'll never say the city
Yeah.
name on stage.
But I'm honestly shocked it doesn't happen more. Like
Yeah.
we're human.
I used to
Um,
say the city name when I did Shut Up and Dance, and this is a while. This is back when Don was in the group, and we did. I said, "Oh, it's good to." I forget what I said, but I pronounced the city Lancaster, and then after the song, Don comes up and goes, "Pronounce Lancaster." I'm like, "Ooh, did not know that."
That's highly debated, though.
Is it really?
There is a correct one, but I don't.
Is that like Wilkes-Barre and Wilkes-Barre?
so you have a little quartet on the side thing, but what kind of shows were you guys doing?
There were no shows that we did. We sang in the lobbies for singing Hoosier stuff. There were
Yeah.
a few like open mics that were. I remember one that was at the one dorm, the hippie dorm that's over near where
Collins.
the Collins.
Collins, yeah.
And we actually sang with another couple a cappella groups there, including Delusions of Grandeur, which had already started, which is another 6-person a cappella group that I sang in and you sang in there as well. But
Yeah.
I wasn't in Delusions yet, but that was the first time I saw them. And but with the 4 of us sang together sporadically. Charlie was very busy. His girlfriend was on campus there,
Mhm.
and the other 2 guys were music majors. So they were actually, no, one of them was in the business school. So he was really busy. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it was just very casual. We just do whatever. And then that sort of continued until the end of freshman year. And then there was talk about, because I was around Dan more and getting to know those guys a little bit, getting to know DR. We just got to talk. He knew all of the guys that were in groups at U of I, University of Illinois, and Extension Core's other guys.
Guys.
Yeah. So he had friends that were in there, and he was just like, I forget how, but I was telling him I knew all these people that were in
Mhm.
the UPenn groups, and I grew up with that constantly on my life and wished that was there. And we talked about it. And we were doing auditions for Singing Hoosiers when we came back our sophomore year.
Okay.
And you would get up in front of Singing Hoosiers, whether you were already in it before or
Right.
people were coming in.
That was the whole thing when I.
Oh, you had audition every time? You
Every
had to.
time.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
you've
did
got
that
it.
shit.
Sing a song. Yeah.
It means something for the girls because there's 250 girls that
Yeah,
come out
right,
for
yeah.
60 spots. The guys, they're
Just desperate for guys.
yeah.
to
So,
Yeah,
just
if you
be
can
in
sing
the
tenor,
choir.
you're in.
but I remember sitting there with re-auditioning. I don't remember if I crushed it or not, but I saw people from our initial founding group that came through and sing, and sitting there with Dan, and Dan introduced me to Kevin. And I never met Kevin Carroll, which is one of the founding members as well. And Kevin said to me, he goes, Dan and I are looking for guys to put together. So they came back and already thought about doing it. It was more of Dan and I initially talked about it, and we got back, Dan was already rolling with it. And I was like, as long as I get in this thing, man, I'm
Yeah.
excited. And that was the first time we ever met Steve Morgan. There was like 4 of us sitting there, and Steve was a year younger than all of us and came in. He was 140 pounds, soaking wet, little scrawny guy that comes in and he's singing some opera aria or some kind of very cheesy music theater song. And we were like, holy, this high, just very tenor, like totally focused, amazing. Like just, it was like, who is this guy? And we're like, he's in the group.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was unbelievable.
Like
Just to
started,
jump around
you
a
know.
little bit, when you and I both did the cruise. Oh, all 4 of us did the cruise ship.
We
Yeah.
did.
When I got on my cruise ship contract and there was a band that was up there, and I would see acts come up there and sing with it, it's like, okay, we're getting up there and doing our opening show and the closing show, and we're not playing with the band, but they're sitting back there. So I was like, I bet I can figure out how to write charts for these guys. And we're on the ship, and you have literally 23 and a half hours in your day if you're working at all. So it's just like, I bet. So over the course of my contracts, I just started writing charts for us and charts for other artists that would come
Mhm.
through. And again, it's the same thing. So when I got off, that's how I started getting stuff for theme parks and other cruise ships and other acts and stuff like that, just because it's all right. I figured out how to do this. I've got all this stuff now. I didn't really have any intention of doing anything with it, but I've done that. And it's, so that's
So what's Delusions? How did that start?
Delusions of Grandeur
name.
was,
Delusions of Grandeur.
yeah. So I wasn't an original member. The original member started my freshman year. As I said, I'd seen them doing another show, and then
They were a smaller group, right? They weren't 10
Yep.
dudes.
5. Yeah.
6 guys.
Six.
Yeah.
6 guys. And one of the guys in Singing Hoosiers, Tom Toby, was the original bass. And Tom Toby mentioned to me that they were looking to replace their tenor They're high tenor.
Real quick, at the time, that was the only a cappella group on campus, correct? Delusions of Grandeur was the only one. There wasn't any SNC yet. Is this right?
Correct.
Or
Yeah.
no?
Oh, they
Okay.
started before SNC.
Yes.
They were here before.
So that's what I was saying
I
is-
did that.
is-
No, I
Mine
thought
is
it had just popped up at the same time.
But
For
I
me,
don't.
it did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were all those guys in the Singing Hoosiers also?
No, they had
Okay.
nothing to do with music school. They were friends from Reed. They were all they were
Oh.
No way.
Pritz, yeah.
Okay.
Todd Pritz, Don,
John
Don,
Don
shout out
Nottingham,
Don.
because
What up,
Don was
Don?
an original member. Jumping ahead again, going into my 5th year after my senior year, 5 guys went and did a theme park at Cedar Point in Ohio, and it was
Sandusky.
I was Jerome. I think it was Jerome that reached out to me, and we put an audition together. And we were just trying to find guys to do it. Randy, Dr. Don, Todd Pritz, and myself were the 5 guys that did it. The 5
And
of
that
us
was
did
summer
it.
between your senior year and what would be your 5th year, or
Correct.
your junior year and what
Correct.
would be your okay?
Yeah, yeah.
So your senior year going into your 5th.
5th, yeah.
You came back, and so did Don
Mhm.
and
And
Randy and Dr.
Mhm. So
Not
Don
Todd,
wasn't.
right.
We're jumping around, but Don, the only 3 original guys that came back after that, the initial guys graduated in 1999, were Dr., myself, and Randy.
That's right.
And then Don, because we did that summer, the 3 of us were like, we should invite Don into this. And there was talk about bringing Todd in, and I'll just say his personalities, that was the thing, but it was there. Todd was
Oh,
almost
there's
in.
still tea. So we keep talking about a 5th year, and I want to just say on your behalf, the musical education degree at Indiana is a 5-year program.
Is it really?
Like
It's 4.5.
I didn't
Now
know
it's
that.
5.
it is full on 5 years.
Is it
like
really?
yes, they've
Mm.
tried. They tried initially to cram it in 4 years, and they just could not. It's too much.
Yeah, I passed out of all the theory,
Then
and
how'd
I
you do it
still
for?
had to come back in 4.5
I don't have
years
a
to do
music
it.
education
Mm.
degree. I have a
Oh,
performance.
just ed is
The
5.
music
oh,
ed is
okay,
5
I
years,
got you,
yeah.
I got you.
Sounds to me like a ploy to make more money for the
Oh.
university.
Well, it worked.
Probably, but I don't want people thinking like Walt had to stay an extra year of
Well,
college.
everything worked out for me to come back.
So there's lots of things going on. But anyway, there was no audition process though for Don. It was
Oh.
Don is going to
True,
be
very
Let
true.
in.
the 11th member.
Wow.
We
Oh.
definitely had 11 for that year. I don't know. I want to say that whole year. I don't know
Didn't
if I
you guys
remember,
have
but-
11 before too with Jorge?
Yes.
Yeah, but that was
Yeah.
just for. Oh, actually, that's
It
a
was
good thing
12.
to get into.
It was actually, we had a couple extra guys that came to the first rehearsal, and then we never had them come back. But
So at the time, I was thinking to myself, okay, that's cool. And then I realized after the fact that
That you never liked Don.
no, I
Yeah,
love
we get
Don,
it now. We all get it now.
but there was a good reason
I love you, Don.
because half the group was being replaced. Half those guys left.
That was
And
the same
Walt
thing
had
when
no
Don and I
idea-
got on. It took 5 dudes.
And Walt had no idea like who these guys are. We have a couple guys that are right out of high school. And at the time, the group was like really established and we were doing shows at like all over campus and we were going to Arizona, we were going to Michigan, we were going to all these different states, right? I can understand. He was like, I don't know what I have in half of a new group, but I definitely know what I have in Don.
Yeah.
So when I
Well,
bring
what-
him in
I was
and
gonna say right before,
you know-
at the end of the school year, at the end of my 4th year, the last year of the original group, when 7 guys left, it was supposed to be 5 guys, and
You're
then
right.
Charlie and Steve announced out of nowhere a couple days after the last concert that they were leaving to start a professional group. Steve, Charlie, Dan, Mike Ickhoff, and Jerome. When Charlie and Steve, we had auditioned 5 guys,
Yeah.
including you, Ryan, Mark Holloway,
Mark Holloway, yeah.
Ben Cohen,
Ben-
and Kyle Kaufman.
Oh.
So we had only 8 after Steve and Charlie bounced. So
that's right.
we were coming back. We were going to have auditions for 2 more guys, but I basically,
You,
DR, and
Randy
Randy were
were like,
like, Don's in the
in,
group.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hi guys, we're back.
So then
Don's
you
in the group.
were just 9.
We were 9, but we auditioned and we found 2 guys that were like have to be in, Brian Kelly and Pat Schutte,
Oh yeah.
because Pat was just another piccolo tenor like Steve
Yep.
Morgan, and B Kelly was basically like Jerome's replacement, this unbelievable soloist,
Yeah, because
wild
Yeah.
range. We auditioned 5 or 6 guys, and one of the guys was Mike Landau that came in for that, and we didn't take
No,
him then.
that's it.
We took him 4 months later.
it.
So
I love hearing Pat sing Pooh Corner. He was
Yeah.
so friggin' good
That's
on
Pat
that song.
Schutte now.
Pat Schutte.
Like, I just like
No,
how
I know.
like it seemed as the years went on, it seemed like it was y'all's goal of building the a cappella community there. and
creating it basically. I mean,
Yes.
Delusions was there, but who cares about Delusions?
but as he said earlier, like I
I'm
like
smiling
eventually
when he
went
said
to
that.
sing in Delusions because some of our friends who were in the group, they needed someone to come, so we would sub in here and there. I just think that's really cool how you guys built that whole community and you could switch in and out,
And
you guys
also,
could,
I'll say this: kind of rare at IU
Sure.
to have people with
Yeah.
that kind of just like foresight or just level of like chill, right? Because in the music school at IU, and it's probably best that they weren't performance majors because
yeah, I was just saying we need to talk
those-
about how like
those
it wasn't
people
a
would
part of
not-
the music school.
those people would
Yeah.
not be that cool. Those people would not have been like, oh yeah, I'll sub in and do this, and like we could do this for it. It's
Right.
that did not exist on the in the conservatory side.
Right. But I think it's important to note that like neither SNC nor any acapella group
Yeah.
was affiliated
I'm
with
saying, and that was a good thing because
And I would say it's good too because of the business side of the group too, where if you had a bunch of music school people that needed to say, "Hey, we have this group that we're going to perform all weekend and do all this stuff," like they might not be as willing to do it because I have this rehearsal, I have this other show that I have to do, like blah blah blah.
Mhm.
If you have a bunch of people that are like not music majors, but they're like, we need to get our name out, we need to do shows. Like this group was willing to do it and willing to do whatever it took to get their name out. And
cool from the
perform.
guy who couldn't come to Texas because of singing Hoosiers.
Wow, that was a deep cut. That was a deep cut. So apparently, one time I did not come to a show, Straight On Chaser show,
A
because
week
I had,
of shows in Texas.
what was it a
for-
week? It was like 2 shows.
It was 3. It was San Antonio.
We're getting this out right
he
now.
was working on his
Seriously?
studies, man.
No, he had to do
Minus-
some stupid singing Hoosiers thing. And what's that guy's name?
Michael Schwarzkopf.
Schwarzkopf
I was
wouldn't
in-
let him out.
I was in Singing Hoosiers for 2 years, and there was a conflict of shows, and I was not.
If we've learned
that.
anything, he chose not to take himself out. It wasn't the director who was like, "You cannot go." We all have our own,
No, he had no
kinda
choice.
free-
Schwarzkopf was like, you can't.
or else what?
Or else
I
you
mean, it's granted
fail.
court.
You
It was
fail.
class.
Oh, you get
fail-
half
fail-
the course. Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a class.
I'm
means-
sorry, I
which
did.
means-
I did.
Which means a lot.
Speaking
now
to two
because
about
who
it.
cares?
Sorry,
I'm gonna
Mike.
fail you.
Mike. For those
I
of us,
wasn't in
for,
singing news.
for those of us
Sorry.
that graduated, the grades
Oh.
matter.
Gosh.
Did you graduate?
For the record, I did graduate.
I was just kidding.
Don't let him say
Did
that.
Randy?
But I was never in singing Hoosiers, so
Neither was
I do
neither was
understand.
Like-
I do
But
understand.
like, it was not cool of Schwarzkopf to be like, yeah, you can't go because we have this like random remote gig. It was like, dude,
No, it was in South Bend.
But hey, but if you think about his, perspective, he
there's
was like,
300 people in the group.
I know.
He was
really
our.
good first.
He was our. Were you? No, you weren't musical director because Nick was. You were after Nick.
It was. No, it was after. It was first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he was way more important to Straight No Chaser than he was to Singing Hoosiers.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
So I
We
want to ask
really
about.
needed him in Texas.
All right, cut all that out. Back to Walt.
Can I tie
I
something?
want to ask about. Yeah.
So okay, so Delusions. I auditioned for Delusions my sophomore year. That week, the same week is when Straight No Chaser had its first rehearsal. So I was in
Really?
Delusions and Straight No Chaser that week. My entire life, like social life, everything changed. And then the guys from Delusions were my roommates junior year and senior year. Those are the guys that I was closest with, but I would also do all the Straight No Chaser stuff. When we came back, DR was my roommate, and that's when we were singing together. And
So
doing all
I was
this
going to
stuff.
ask how the whole group eventually formed, and then I want to ask you something else about the dynamic, just with Delusions and SNC and all that. But like, how did the group like actually get its like everything rounded out?
Yeah.
So
Were you guys like handpicked or were
yeah,
you guys
So
auditioned?
out of the Singing Hoosier audition, it was like Dan was definitely running with it, and I loved it because he was a lot more social and he knew a lot more people that were in Hoosier. So I was like, great. So it was, hey, this Thursday night we're gonna have a rehearsal, Sycamore Hall at 8:00, whatever it was. So when I showed up, there was Dan and myself and 10 other guys. We were just there, and so I think it was a combination of Dan and Kevin Carroll handpicking guys. All the guys were from Singing Hoosier, so that's how we all knew of each other.
Did any of those people that showed up to the first rehearsal not?
Chris Ludva. Yeah, he was a master student at the time. Actually, no, he was student director of Singing Hoosiers that semester, and then he became a master's conducting, and then got his doctorate, and now he like conducts symphonies in Michigan. Actually, he works at a college in
Yeah.
Michigan, but he also conducts and stuff. Anyway,
Didn't
he
we
was
see-
like, no.
Oh.
But when we got to that first rehearsal and started talking about we're going to rehearse a couple times a week, he was like, peace. I can't do
Yeah.
this at all. He was great friends with Patrick and still to this day is good friends with Patrick O'Shea, one of the founding guys. And then there was another bass, two basses, Charlie's older brother, Jake, and
didn't know
his
that.
friend, I'm forget he the they'll I can't
Milton.
remember now
Yeah.
some guy. And then also Jorge Pascal, who was a good friend of Jerome's. Jorge was in the group the entire first year and a half. And he would just show up when he wanted to.
But he was like really good looking, right?
Super face
Yeah,
guy,
face guy.
super like could do Latin dancing. A
he
smile still. Oh my, not really. Hold on. Jorge is like an established performer, like an entertainer, like is like working, or I don't know if he's still, but
Are you trying to say stripper?
nope, not a stripper, but a great entertainer. But he wasn't great at holding down harmonies. He didn't have that ear.
Mm.
And he would probably tell you that, but I'm not supposed to up the Jorge, so I hope he's not frustrated.
It's interesting though,
He's
because
not.
a lot of singers, if they're going to be singers on their own, that's not something like
That they do,
harmony
yeah,
and stuff,
right.
and like sing with other
Harmony's
people is
different.
not something that they
It's a
think
different
about.
That's
Like,
why Corey didn't get in the group the first time he auditioned.
yeah, there's a lot of different ways to blend in with people, and it's not like a bad thing. Like if you're not able to, it just means that you just have a different style.
I
Singing
realized that
baritone
the first
parts.
time when I worked on my first ship, and the cast was up there, and they were doing this Christmas show, and they were singing Silent Night, and we're sitting there because we were. So it goes, we're sitting in the audience because we had to perform next, and the female singer and the male singer were up there singing, and then they were like, "Oh no, this is supposed to be." They were singing it in unison, and then the music director was like, "This needs to be in harmony," and they couldn't figure it out. I'm like,
Yeah,
this is so weird to me. Like,
it becomes
so
natural
easy.
to us because
Yeah.
we grew up listening to Boys to Men, all these different vocal groups, Take Six, and everything, and it's just in our blood, it's in our ears. That's the thing that we hear, and
When you were growing up, did your either parents or somebody that you knew sing harmony on songs like on the radio or anything?
my
My
grandfather,
sister,
no.
yeah,
My dad did
my
it.
grandfather.
Oh,
Okay, so you say your sister was the best singer in your family?
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Which is interesting because Jerome said the same thing.
He did, yep.
His older sister was
Yeah.
a better singer than him.
Yeah, Liz sang at my wedding, and all the guys from the group were there, and like friends that came in, they're like, "Dude, your
Wow.
sister could sing." It's a very clear, incredible pitch, just
Wow. good for
impeccable
her.
pitch. Yeah,
Nice.
and she doesn't
Um,
sing anymore.
Is
It's
John
unfortunate.
a good voice?
John is
He's a band
he is
director, right?
the musical director. The job that I went to Indiana to be to replace my high school music teacher, the one that got to Indiana.
Oh, really?
John is now the musical director. He took
Oh.
over after my high school teacher left. When he graduated, John took that spot. So he played. John went as a double, like he's a. I don't know if he went. He's as good of a tenor saxophone player than he is a singer. Is the nice way to say
Did
it.
you ever tell him that he got that only because
'Cause you didn't want
you were in a touring acapella?
When I went out for my student teacher, yeah, I know I should just be haha.
Just
But I went out
You
for my
don't
student
tell him.
teaching.
He-
When I
I'm
went
just kidding.
when I went
I'm
for my
kidding.
student teaching, I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
Which was highly disappointing to my parents
Yeah.
and my
Oh, I
my
bet.
own self. But
I
I was
wanted
like,
to ask, like, when you were at IU and you were in S&C and also in the other band, was there any kind of I should be rehearsing with Illusions, or I should be rehearsing with S&C, or I should be arranging for S&C, but I'm like, how was that dynamic at? Because you were a sophomore at the time, or maybe
When I got
junior at
in,
the
yeah.
time. Okay, so
Sophomore.
you were in a couple groups, one that was new, one that was established, but obviously never anything that you could know would become, I don't know, what we are now. But like, how did you divide your time in between those two?
I work all the. You guys know me pretty well. I
Yeah.
work all of the time. If
Yeah.
I'm not like, if I'm not working, I'm getting my
even then-
masters. Yeah. I
even
just
then you were doing this?
just never. It just never stopped. So
Nice.
sophomore year, when that happens, I'm just arranging for everything, and I was obviously in the music school doing things as well. And that it just no one was ever like, hey, I wish that why are you doing more songs for this? It was just I was just doing songs all the time. So,
Well, because both groups just needed stuff.
yeah.
So they were just.
But there were
happy to have
guys that were arranging, but obviously I was like competing with Dan and Patrick. He was doing arrangements too. So it was
So
like
was there ever a
Yeah,
point?
yeah.
that. Nice.
Stand by Me,
That's
Little
it.
Bitty Pretty One was one of his
I didn't know
songs.
that.
But
So was there ever? When did you decide to only do S&C as you were there?
So I was coming back from my 5th year when Dan and all those guys said they were graduating and they're going to do this thing. Jerry Tardy, who was the the alumni association, either president or director, I forget what they called him. He wanted to have someone from that group carry it over and be music director. So I was given a full scholarship to come back fifth year
Wow.
under the alumni association.
No way.
So
That's so
when I was
cool.
given that opportunity, I was like,
Yeah.
I can't do delusions. Where I have to,
Absolutely.
like,
Oh, I see.
have to take care of
Gotcha.
this.
Gotcha.
But that was the only reason why I left. Those are all my boys. Don did leave too, though, because Don, he was working all the time. He was always
At
Pizza Express. Yeah, he was
Express.
a delivery.
Also, to their
driver.
credit, though,
Pizza
they
Express, so good.
Yeah, so good.
they remained
Now
a group,
X.
and they remained a group, and they stayed a group.
Several guys that were in the group with me in college were
Right.
Delusions.
I have
John
to say
Mulholland,
that-
Todd Galley,
And Mickey Seidenstein, I subbed in
Landau.
for a few shows when they were doing
Landau was in Delusions.
like
Yeah.
sorority
Oh.
weekends and stuff.
Wow.
So I don't know if you guys know, but like SNC was the main sort of go-to for if you wanted something like us, at like your mom's weekend for sororities or for any gigs or whatever. It was something that like we did. But if we weren't able to do it, like we always had good relationships with everybody in the sororities or that were in all these different things. So if S&C wasn't available, we would suggest, hey, if you want music, then we have another group. And that's how I got in on the other side too, because it was like, hey, so we're doing this thing. Like we need an extra guy. Okay, cool. I was a junior or senior, and there were some weird vibes in the band. It was like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? But I always feel like I had that like mindset of I'm a musician, man. I'm a singer, man.
go
Like,
with this.
I want to do the gig. And it wasn't about I want to do this over this. It was just it just was what it was. Like it was
gonna
a
take
gig
whatever
and I wasn't
opportunity
making any
comes up.
money. It was just like, hey, I
For
want to have some
taxes.
fun. Yeah, right. Yeah.
There was always a little bit of a competitive thing. The year that Straight No Chaser, the original group, went on their run and finished second at Carnegie Hall, Delusions competed in the first round against Straight No
Oh,
Chaser
really?
at U of I.
Really?
So
I
I
didn't know
sang the first act with
Sing in
Delusions
both groups.
and the second act with Straight No Chaser.
Wow.
Yeah.
They couldn't blame it on you.
Yeah.
Oh man,
That's
cool.
crazy. I never knew
That's
any of
really
that.
cool.
I have a question that I'm sure fans will want to know since you're on our podcast, but it's about arranging, and it's a two-parter. One is when you first started arranging music for a cappella, how has it changed throughout the years that you've been arranging? And what now, or what is your approach to your arrangements? Would you say is what would you say it is now, or how do you approach a song?
So when we first started doing songs, like we're talking back in college,
Sure.
even in high school, I was just looking for songs to sing for girls. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? You're looking for cool songs to do. Shy, Boys to Men stuff. Obviously, there would be some songs like one of my first arrangements was River of Dreams by Billy Joel, which is
Oh, great
obviously
song.
not to like mac on girls, but it was one of those things that you just hear like the bridge, I go walking in the,
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna arrange a song. And it was the arrangement was terrible. But like it was that back then, it was like, let's do Usher, You Make Me Wanna. Let's do This Is How We Do It. It was all about we're gonna go sing in a sorority. Let's
Right. Do the songs that they want to hear.
exactly.
And also, let's take this thing that's forever been known as corny and cheesy and lame and stupid and try to breathe new life into it and make it cool and modern. You guys, I feel like you guys were the first, you guys are like the pioneers of taking a cappella
Yeah.
and getting it out of the shooby dooby 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 doo bop bop,
Yeah.
right, and bringing it into that new age of
Which they also
doing.
did that song.
I know you got to.
Yeah, we were doing a lot of canned stuff, but yeah, that's the whole point. And
Like you guys were
Doing
trailblazers in that
Usher,
because
Leah, all that stuff.
you became this. It sounds so dumb when you say it, like the bad boys of college a cappella, which is
Yeah.
what the group became known as, which is so dumb to say.
and I give a lot of the credit to Jerome for that vibe. Jerome was one of the biggest
Really?
people on campus. He would, because of the fraternity scene, you would go and do what were they called
Oh,
when you drop in and sing serenades.
yeah,
You would go in and do serenades, and everyone knew Jerome because Jerome was doing serenades like you were probably doing serenades.
Yeah.
Yeah. You would go. All the fraternities would go to the sororities, and you would like have
Yeah.
somebody step out and sing. And he was one of the guys. So literally everybody knew Jerome, and Jerome had so much charisma. So when we would go in and sing for sororities, everybody already knew Jerome. So
yeah.
we were backing him. And Ponce was also in a fraternity. He was a Phi Gam.
Yeah.
So Dan was also known. He would play piano at serenades and do all this stuff. Kevin was in Alpha Set.
Alpha Sig, yeah.
So we had these guys. Ikoff was in
The Jewish one.
ZBT. A
ZBT.
guy, yeah, Ikoff was in ZBT. We had all these guys that were in fraternities that were like guys that were trying to like not be music
Yeah,
nerds.
yeah.
They were trying to
Be cool.
sing for girls
Yeah.
and be cool around their fraternity brothers.
Theme here. in
Yeah.
college.
Yeah, man. So it's like that was in our DNA. Whereas guys that were, I was a music nerd. DR was a music nerd. Randy, we were all, but we had these guys that were fraternity guys that knew how to like do serenades and go sing at sororities. And that is the roots of Straight No Chaser. And it still exists today.
Oh
I
yeah.
love that. I
Even,
love that.
even when I got there, we had so many sorority shows. They were already, because you guys had already built that up. It was like, okay, this is your sorority mom show
Yeah.
season. Like you're every Sunday from now until April, you're doing mom shows. Okay. Yeah, it's great. I loved it.
Did you accidentally turn that off? There you go.
How long is the spinoff for?
Only
40
only,
minutes.
only like the last minute.
Do you mean to say any of that again?
No, I don't.
So where did you grow
Where'd you
up?
grow up? Yeah.
No, I wanted to ask you. Hold on. No. I want.
Hey, as always, I'm Seggy.
Yeah,
Mike,
that's
Tom.
So I
whatever.
wanted to
Tom
ask
Dick,
you,
Tom Dick.
man, like that was.
How long are these podcasts?
3 hours.
Yeah.
But
Have you
here's
ever
the
seen a
thing.
Joe
We
Rogan?
have 2 more hours.
It's
Two-
Joe
hold on.
Rogans.
Here's the thing, though. I feel like, yeah, it's usually about an hour, but
Thanks
a lot
for watching.
of the times, things move on naturally. But there's a lot of good stuff to talk about, so I'm okay to sit here for as long as we. No, I wanted to ask you after you graduate, what's your plan? Like, where are you going? What are you going into after this?
I mentioned that I was a music ed major and I did my end of my student teaching. I was like, I am not going to go try to teach right away. It just was not natural. Straight No Chaser had opened my eyes and I wanted to not even perform. I just wanted to produce. I wanted to just do more music. And my high school buddies were all Penn State and they were like, we're starting a band here. I'm like, I don't really play an instrument. They're like, I thought you played piano. I don't really. I was like, I could stand in front of a piano and sing harmonies. So that's basically what I did. Moved in and helped this group called Seven Souls, which were my high school
Yeah.
buddies. And we would play out in Penn State. We eventually got well known enough that we were doing shows all over the place on weekends. We would go down to Delaware. We go to Jersey Shore. We would go up to the
Primarily Dave
Poconos.
Matthews covers, right?
Yeah. Dave Matthews cover band. We had original
Heck yeah,
songs.
dude.
On the same arranging tip, you doing arrangements, even though it's not a cappella, but were you arranging music in that band, or were you just singing and doing whatever?
There was less of a let's make this formal music vibe going on with that group.
Cool.
The horn players would occasionally ask me to arrange stuff for them. And then I would chart out things. I'd be like, hey, this is like, I would have pieces of paper when guys were like not looking at it, but like me, like I'll go out of my way to chart something that nobody cares. They're like, thanks, Walt, we don't need that.
How long
updated.
did that last? How long did that last?
Over 2 years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then after that, so for 2 years, so what? This is
Band had
like
musical
01, 02 probably?
01 into 03. Then
Okay.
the band had creative differences.
Okay. As
Then I
Which
as
means it
bands
broke up.
do.
actually it was 2000 and 2002.
Okay.
And then band broke up at the end of 2002. Then I spent the next 6 months like working in like this factory thing and also like bussing tables. I was working like 6 days a week just because my girlfriend, now wife, was living in New York. So I was like,
Sure.
I needed to be able to afford anything.
Yeah.
And then out of nowhere, I got a call from Mike Landau and he was like, we're doing cruise ship groups.
Oh,
Are you
man.
interested? And I was just like,
Yeah.
are you kidding
Yeah.
me?
Yeah.
I get to sing a cappella and
A cruise ship.
I was
man,
like,
you to
get
all
me
these
out of
awesome places.
this
And
rat
you
race.
were his first group, right?
Yeah.
We were not one of Landau's groups. So we were poached by a guy named Tim
Tim
Kamen.
Molyneux, yeah.
They were going against each other. And I was like, Landau, get us a group. Landau, get us a group. And Landau could not find 2 guys. It was me and DR. We're into it. We had Randy interested for a minute. Imagine Randy on the ships.
Oh
If
my
he
God.
hears us, he definitely, I think, either shot it down immediately or in my mind, I think he was like interested. But that would have been, I don't think Randy would have liked the ships that much.
There's no Starbucks.
That's true.
It literally was not invented yet. Actually, it might have been.
So couldn't
2001.
Landau couldn't find us guys, but Molyneux, I don't know how he figured it out, but he got a hold of us. He had 2 more guys and we did that. And I was really apologetic because it was basically his competition, but he was fine with it. And then he ended up getting Mike's group, I
So
think, at the next group.
who was in your 4-part group? It was
Wait, so
UDR.
Mike, Ryan, Mickey, and John were Landau's first group.
Think
Right,
so.
I think so. Yeah.
You know what?
Oh, I thought
No,
you guys
he
were.
had some groups on there before us. He had some like guys that were like really, I can't remember the name, but he had a group he had a couple groups on.
Okay.
Those guys were his first IU group.
Oh,
That's the way to say it.
That's right. Okay.
I didn't know that. I always thought you guys were his first group. I didn't know you guys
Yeah.
were with Molyneux.
He's very forgiving. That was a little awkward. What were we talking about?
Who was in your group?
Oh,
UDR.
David Beta, who is now he was in the cast of On Your Feet, the Gloria Stefan musical.
Cool.
He's like this, again, like just wildly high singing tenor. I would sing T2 to like his stuff. He was just crushed
nice.
it. And Chris Allen, who is just a random bro that is still a guy that DR and I catch up with. We met all these,
Nice.
a lot of great, I'm sure you guys know, there's just people that you don't keep in contact from the ship
Right.
that are like
Right.
in your heart forever, just how great it was to hang with those people for.
So going back to IU, you started that quartet. You started this group. You were in Delusions. What was the thing that led you to? Was it Molly that led you to start Ladies First? Because I know you helped.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I know you helped create the first female a cappella group at IU. Was it like to do a solid for Molly? Were you guys together yet?
No.
Did you know
No,
each
I didn't
other?
know Molly yet.
Okay.
So when Delusions and Stranger Chaser would go to U of I, go to Michigan, go to everywhere, there would be 5 or 6 groups on campus, and there would always be at least one women's group.
Right.
And when we would do shows, the women groups would show up because they were all great friends with the guy groups, and you saw that they were all dating each other. You saw that they were all like,
Yeah.
really close friends and all that stuff. And it was like we should do a group here on campus. But obviously, I was a little busy. So when I was approached we had auditions when Luganville auditioned. We had a couple girls that reached out and said they wanted to audition for Stranger Chaser. And respectfully, Stranger Chaser is a guy group. And they're like, we want to start a women's group. And I was like, okay. So it was Natalie Perkins and Sarah Gibson, the 2 girls. And they said, we want to do auditions and blah, blah, blah. So we put up flyers. And I sat in the room with the 2 of them. They had no a cappella experience at all. Natalie is an unbelievable musician, incredible singer. Sarah just had all the heart and all the gumption. So there was a great team between the 2 of them. And we had auditions. 80 girls showed up
Oh
because
my
you know how it
There's
is with
so many,
women.
yeah,
Like they're
so
always
many.
looking for stuff.
Yeah.
And so my wife walked in. Molly is from an hour south of me in Pennsylvania. She was in every single musical theater. She was in Hoosiers after I left. It was when she was describing the things that she was in, I was like, how have I not met you before? And also, obviously, she's the woman I married. I was like, but so it was just like, that's not why she got in. She's an incredible musician, but she was actually dating a guy at the park. We came back after summer, and it was like started hanging out with her, and that's how it all started. It was
So
my
you
5th
basically
year.
started your own Tinder before apps were a thing.
Yep.
Nice.
I started a women's a cappella group to meet my wife.
I
So
love it.
and so that every guy in Straight No Chaser could have a women's group to pal with. Like some of my best friends, Anne-Marie LaRocca, Gina Guida, like these girls were like people I kept up with for years. Anne-Marie is still one of
That was
my
a really
wife's best
good group.
friends.
There were
A
like
lot of
a
talent.
lot of really
Yeah.
great singers in that group. A lot.
One of the LF girls is the reason I'm here today. So,
Really?
Yeah. Jesse
that?
Jesse
Odenbach,
Odenbach. Yeah.
Really?
We were doing a musical off campus, and she was like, this sophomore year, she was like, you should audition for Stranger Chaser. And I was like, what's that?
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, it's this a cappella group. And I was like, no thanks. Like
Yeah.
I'm cool. It sounds like a little too like,
Little did you know.
and like I was a little jaded because of the music school, like at IU. The performance majors at IU, like I didn't have most of my friends at IU were not in music at all. And not most, almost all. Kids in the music school are very, very heady. They're very like, we're Juilliard. It's like, all right, so let's all relax a little bit. We're in college. We're here to have fun. Yes, we're all here to get better at our instrument or at whatever we're doing.
Yeah.
But we're here to have a good time. Like
Yeah.
I went to IU for sports, for Greek life, for music, for
Mhm.
everything. And so when she told me about this group, I was like, that sounds like the exact wrong direction that I want to go in. And she was like, no, trust me, they're basically a frat. And I was like, okay. I was fratty. I'm in. So I was the last person to audition. Xander Meisner went right before me because he was in the show with us. We were doing HMS Pinafore with the city of Bloomington off campus, and he auditioned just before me, and I was the very last person to go. And you were there. You auditioned me.
I was.
Yeah. But yeah, ladies first.
So after you leave IU and you go to Penn State and you're doing the band stuff, is there ever like a point where you're like, maybe the music thing's not working and I have to go do something else? What are those 3 to 5 years like?
So those were like my 5 shady years. Like when you get out of college, there's usually like that. Some people like your story going from college onto the ship and
Straight
immediately
ship,
a straight
yeah,
no chaser is like a
Yeah.
dream scenario.
Yeah,
It's basically going from college into the NFL or something like that, where there's just like no middle ground. But
LeBron
for
James.
most people,
Same amount of CTE. Why LeBron James? He said NFL.
Oh, he said no. He said
LeBron.
college.
LeBron,
No, he said
LeBron
high
could
school.
play in the NFL.
LeBron.
Sorry, I thought you said high
Shout
school
out
and then
Hitchman.
That's a
into the
huge
NBA.
sports guy.
point being, I had 5 years that were very fuzzy between like all that, where it was just
Yeah.
like I did the cruise ship, came back, and basically I was just following Molly around. Like we started dating in '99, still together now. It's just she went to New York because she was trying out for shows, and I was legit poor, so I was just like, how am I gonna? So I got off the ship, and I had all the money that I'd saved from the ship, and DR and I got off the ship and moved into an apartment up in Harlem, and I just started hustling. I started working in restaurants. I got a job at ASCAP, which sounds really nice because it's in music, but it was not a lot of money. So I was
Mhm.
working there and doing restaurants. So I was basically just
Did you work there at the same time
hustling.
as Steph Gaber?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
I got Steph the job there. And
Oh, really?
He stayed
Nice.
there after I did.
Steph is a friend. She was in Ladies
Ladies
First,
first,
as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
Molly just went to her wedding about 2
Yeah,
months.
she just got married.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I remember when I was on my ship, you told me to post a flyer of your Chase music or
That's right.
And I
For
was like,
arrangements.
yeah, for arrangements. I was like,
Yeah.
yep, posted all around the ship.
So I would work with different. I recorded some stuff with Jerome and this guy Johnny Perkins, who's now a professor at Berkeley. But we would write stuff
That's who
together.
we just saw.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Johnny Perkins.
In
Yeah,
Boston. That's who I was.
great, unbelievable musician and a great guy. Good friends with DR. They went to high school, either high school together or they knew each other. Anyway, but those years was basically just like hustling, doing any kind of music stuff. I wrote some stuff. I worked with a guy, Pat McGinnis, he
Oh,
went to
yeah.
Berkeley, and
Yeah,
then
Pat,
he lived he was Molly, one of her girlfriends, bridesmaids. With her husband is Pat, and
Yeah.
still Allie.
Allie?
Yeah,
Yeah.
still is. Steve used to cater with Allie. Anyway,
Yeah.
so it was just a lot
Small
of that.
world.
Yeah.
Cool.
It was just a lot of like random gigs. And then I got a job at Deloitte because ASCAP wasn't making enough. And I saw this posting and I ended up I was an executive assistant to this really
Nice.
huge, this guy. It actually went through a couple different iterations, but I was thinking like I could actually make a career out of this
Absolutely.
financial, like
Yeah.
working. I could see chief of staffs with people. I was just like personable, very detail oriented and
Yeah,
organized, which
yeah.
is
Right.
like
It's your thing.
my
Yeah.
type of
Thing,
thing.
yeah.
I love doing it, and
Yeah.
there was a definite passion. But then I was walking home from work one day, going to see the musical Wicked, and
No way, really?
I got a call from Dan and Randy, and
Wow.
they're like, "We're getting signed to a record deal," and I was like, "No," they said. No, it was that's what it was. We were getting signed to Atlantic, and I missed going to Wicked. I walked straight to Molly's work, and I told her, and then Molly, Steve, who was in New York, Charlie, who was in New York, and DR, that was in New York. The 5 of us went to DR's apartment, bought some champagne, and just
Oh, hell yeah.
went nuts, man. Can you believe
So
it?
did you have
Can you-
any
I mean, like,
other
It's
thought
so wild.
other like I just started working here. I've got a good thing going. I could be this, like you just said, like I could have a career in this. But right when you got the call, it was like, okay, it's like the group's gonna be signed. Like, was there ever a thought of, ooh, I've put my time in here and I could see a future here?
I knew because of working at ASCAP and like keeping up on like music, I knew that getting signed to a record deal did not necessarily mean like now you were living on
No,
yachts
not
and
at
like
all.
able to pay off your mortgage type of thing.
You know,
Like,
yeah.
As he says from his tour bus.
I wish. Yeah. But it was like
Second tour bus.
I knew that it was, and there were guys in the group that had bigger jobs than I did. So I
Yeah,
knew,
yeah.
and there were some guys that didn't have, like
Yeah.
Jerome was getting off a gig from
Yeah.
working as Lion King in,
Yeah,
in
Hong Kong,
in Hong
yeah.
Kong. And so there were some guys that were, and Steve was was on Broadway. And so there were,
Wild.
I was in a position where it's just like, I don't have a whole lot to lose here. So
Yeah.
and we were
Yeah.
rehearsing weekends in New York. So I could just take the train down
Yeah.
as everyone was flying all over the place. Dan was
No,
like
I
doing
remember
all these
that.
crazy
Yeah.
things.
And there were half of us who were, I don't know if it was our time in our lives or whatever, but it was like, let's go. And I think you need at least half the group like at the beginning stages to have that attitude of whatever has to happen and we're going to do it. And I felt like over the first 1 to 2 years, like even the guys who had like other jobs, I feel like they worked really hard to make it
Sure.
work for as long as they could.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I actually give a lot of those guys credit.
I was gonna ask, like, in those initial like meetings with either the people in New York or like the initial rehearsals, whatever. Like, obviously everybody came from different backgrounds, whatever. Either they had a job they were passionate about or not. But was it kind of the group's mentality to be like, let's go for this. We have to go for this. We have this opportunity. We have to go for it.
You got it. Like when you were talking about those 5 years before group got back together, if you even tag on the 3 years or whatever between that, like all of us stayed friends. It's not like we were at each other's weddings. There guys in the group, Steve and DR and Ryan all stood in my wedding. Like we were going to Mardi Gras together. 6 of those guys were living in Atlanta. I would be in Atlanta 6 times.
Yeah.
I would be there like once every other month. All the money that we were saving, if it wasn't going towards trying to be around Molly in the city, it was going to travel with these guys and go to weddings. So like when you get the call to go into the music industry, that wasn't the thing that was most exciting. It was to do a job full time with my best friends.
Interesting. I like that. I like that.
So-
I like that.
I would, if you told high school Walt, who was getting the call to be in a professional a cappella group signed to Atlantic Records, that alone is amazing. But the fact that my best friends were going to have the opportunity to run through the wall,
Right.
and I knew how hard that we all worked because
Right.
we busted it at Indiana just like y'all did. So when you got that, I was just like, it was the most sure thing. I was just like, because as long as Dan was there, like I knew I had somebody to like work off of. Like
Right,
Dan is, he doesn't get, and I don't think he has enough credit because he's been out of the group so long. Is one of the most important people in Straight No Chasers history. Such an incredible musician. He pushed me and I pushed him. And the culmination was after he left, he came back and arranged Creep with me, which is still to this day
I love
something that
I love the relationship though, like over the years, just because as an arranger myself, like I learned a lot from watching you guys and just seeing how you guys interacted with each other. Because you had, if you know the songs, if you listen to the songs, like you would hear it's a completely different style, like very opposite styles. And I feel like it was really good though for me as like someone who was learning how to arrange and like how to write songs and stuff. I've taken a little bit from everybody, so that was a huge resource for me just as a growing arranger. You know?
And it continues today. I see one of you guys do an arrangement and see whether it's more straightforward or it's take on something else. The parody you guys did with the movie medley and TV medley led me to working with Segi on Nutcracker. It's just like seeing like everything. And then like Freedom coming in the group. Freedom has a very formatted way of doing his arrangements.
Right.
3 on this side, 3 on this side, bass, percussionist, soloist. That is the way Freedom arranges, and it is very efficient. That's the way he does things. There's no double tracking. It's just straight up like that. So like with me, it's just okay, if I'm going to attack this chorus, maybe I'll think about it in that way because it works. That it works. And it's the same thing with Dan.
Right.
Same thing with me. And like the way that I learned is by transcribing. I would transcribe a rockapella song and be like, okay, these 3 dudes are just singing the same exact thing on 3 different notes. The bass is doing this, percussion is doing this, and soloist is doing this. Like it's formats by the
Right.
people who go before you and do that, which is
So
Yeah.
so now when you approach a song,
what was the second party? Yeah.
what I'm gonna change my question. What inspires you to arrange something, or what if you either hear something, what sparks your interest? Okay, I want to arrange a song, or this song I think would be good, or what is your spark of interest when you think about arranging something?
It's more complicated now than when it was back in the day of just I want to sing something that like when I think about doing these 90s shows, like arranging last summer, and then if we go forward with doing more 90s stuff in the future, like when I think about that, it's more trying to thread the needle than it is. Oh, also, and it's also more about an adult contemporary audience.
Right.
So it's a little bit more limiting, but I always can when I have a playlist on my Spotify. It's called Arrange Me, and I just dump songs in there. And there's
Arrange Me.
Yeah,
I like that. I like that.
and there's 50 songs in there right now, including one of the ones that I'm working on, like up in the hotel room right now. And if I ever am like, I should be arranging something for Straight No Chaser, I just go in there and I flow through, and it's literally every single imaginable style. And then a song like Yellow Brick Road that I just did, that has been sitting in there for 5 years now.
Really?
Molly's
Wow.
been, I told a story when we were at the Beacon. Molly was telling me to do this arrangement for 3 years, ever since COVID. She's like, you need to do this. Every time I'd be working, she'd be walking it. She would walk past the studio in our house, and she'd be like, "You're working on Yellow Brick Road."
Our
And I'm
wives
like,
always know
like,
best,
I'm not,
man.
I'm not working on Yellow Brick Road,
They
babe.
always know best.
So when I said at the Beacon, I was just like, this is the first time that Molly got to hear this tonight. This was her idea. She was pestering me for 3 years. A round of applause for Molly. Molly stood up and waved
out,
at the
Molly.
audience like the Queen of England, because she was like, yep, I told him. So the process now is like, the song that I'm working on is a 90s song, and I am going off of looking for, I know the strengths that you bring, that Freedom brings, even Jasper and Steve, when they do arrangements. If we're bringing in arrangements, I know there's holes in the show, and there's things that I do that I feel like I excel in when I arrange for the group. And one of them are big numbers, whether they're openers or closers, and then power ballads, and then moving type of emotional sort of like ballads. And when I hit on that with Yellow Brick Road last year, I was just like, I should be doing this more often. So the song I'm working on right now is not in the same exact vein, but it is in the epics, like kind of feeling scale of that sort of thing. But then the other song I talked about doing is a holiday song for next year, which could not be more peppy and straightforward. It's very similar to a lot of my, like, trying to have a big moment either at the beginning or the end of a set,
Sure.
or
Nice.
something you could throw
Love
in
it.
the middle that is peppy like Lido.
Great. Love does it. Great answer.
I
Love
want
that.
to ask one more thing as we wrap up here with you. But a lot of people every year, everybody comes through the line, comes through the meet and greet line, and they say, and asking
your
about
favorite song?
songs, about, I always say they can. How did you think about that song? How did you think about writing it? Why did you think about writing it?
So I'll try to tell the short version of this.
Yeah.
But when we were doing the first album, Holiday Spirits, we were recording different things. And one of the comments from Craig Coleman, who is the CEO of Atlantic at the time, and Steve Lunt, who is our first A&R, yeah, absolutely, was that we should be doing more comedic songs like 12 Days. He was
Right.
just like, this is your bread and butter. You guys sound great doing these choral songs, but give me
Do something
another,
funny.
yes, yeah. So I remember pitching it to Deke Sharon and Lunt, and I think Brits was with us at that time. And I was in a bar, we're in a bar in New York, and I said, I've got this idea for the canned song it's from a like an opera in the 1900s. But I
That's
knew
what it was.
Yeah, but
Sorry.
I knew it.
PD.
It's something. I don't know
Yeah.
what it is.
I knew it as this ditty, and I was like, I have this idea for doing a can for Christmas. And I said, I pitch in the line, I go, Christmas time is here, and Christmas songs we love to hear, songs about joy and hope and cheer, but mostly Jesus.
That's right.
And Lunt goes, what about a different two syllable word than Jesus? And I was like, I don't know. So I went back and started doing more of the lyrics, and I was just like, what about Joe? There's like, that's so much better than bringing Jesus out in the first line.
Pretty sure we recorded Jesus.
We did.
first.
Might have.
We
Yeah,
did.
in Bloomington, yeah.
Oh,
We
wow, I
recorded
didn't know it
Jesus.
got
We
that far.
recorded
Yeah,
Jesus
because
first.
we recorded that. It was on. Yeah.
And it
I remember
wasn't
we had a long
anything
conference
to
call
be like,
that got pretty
oh,
heated after that.
like it wasn't a slight at any kind of religion. Yeah.
And it
But I
was
can understand why he was like, maybe we should not
Yeah.
do that.
back in that day. What Lunt would say, would be gospel. Lunt would say, this song should be in, this song shouldn't be in, this section should be taken out. At least that's how I lived. So like when I came to him with the demo, he was just like, this is absolutely, and I will say at least half the group, if not more than half the group, are like, nope, like this is corny, this is not going to work.
Really?
I felt,
Was I in the group yet? I don't think so.
Yes.
I know specifically there were a few guys.
So one guy
that-
said this song will never see the light, of day.
Deke
Oh,
took
yeah.
a lot of the credit of opening up that arrangement and twisting in different songs and saying,
Really?
what about this? What about throwing this around here? Deke was the producer of that whole album,
Christmas
Can't
Cheer.
Can't. So,
Christmas cheer, that's right, yeah.
so when you think about the peppiness and corniness of a cappella, like Deke will gladly take
He's at the
credit for
forefront.
like
Even as we,
in the greatest way possible. We would bust Deke's chops about him being into the acapella whole thing
Right.
that was so not our vibe, but it was because of his vibe coming into that song that made it acceptable, not only in half of our eyes, the group, to get it done, but in Steve Lunt's eyes, because
Yeah, that's
Steve
even
wanted Deke to
yeah.
be the front. We were doing Christmas cheers and with a twist at the same time, you know. So, and doing the first 6-pack. Like it was Lunt and Deke and the group at all times, with
Yeah.
Craig Coleman popping in every once in a while.
It's been
Thank-
so cool to hear like
Oh.
all of your backstory here and everything, and like it's been great.
And the next time we have you on, we're gonna dive way deeper in arranging. Way
Maybe you guys just have
Yeah.
a chat.
okay.
Look on your own.
Thank you.
Not on the podcast.
And we will be right back after this with a recap of the last week and a half of shows after our Thanksgiving break. And we'll do that after we get back.
Hey everybody, Segi here from the Unofficial Official Podcast, here to tell you about our good friends at Dunkin' K-Cups, are what this band thrives on every morning. As soon as we wake up, definitely before 8 a.m., we like to pop in a Dunkin' K-Cup into our Keurig machine, start our day off with the delicious, amazingly roasted coffee from Dunkin', because everyone knows America runs on Dunkin'. So shout out to Dunkin' for being today's unofficial official sponsor, completely unpaid, sadly unpaid. But Duncan, if you're out there and you want to write a check, we will cash it. Duncan K-Cups, solid stuff.
All right. Now is the time that we are going to go into the recap of our shows. Great ad read, Segi. Duncan.
Thank you very
Hey,
much.
Duncan,
man.
Duncan
If
K-Cups.
they want to sponsor us, they can.
Did you know that was Walt's favorite K-Cup?
Was it really?
I did know that, yeah.
You did? Is that
This
why
one.
you decided to do it?
No, it was actually just coincidence.
Yeah.
Because I thought our ads should be things that we use
Yeah.
Yeah.
frequently.
That's-
So
yeah.
far we've done Ricola,
Yeah.
we've done Sharpie, and now
Sharpie,
we're doing
yeah.
Duncan K-Cups.
Okay.
Wait, Sharpie and Thorcoat and Duncan.
And Ricola, so 4.
All right. So the last time we came to you, we were in San Diego, California. We were leading into the week before Thanksgiving. We're going to go from there. We were in San Diego. We had Jerome on the pod. And then that week, we went to Fresno, Redding, Airway Heights, Washington, Salem, Oregon, and Seattle, Washington. So we'll start first with Fresno. Anything about Fresno show that stuck out other than the fact that the venue was freezing cold that day? Anything about that venue?
Dude, are you kidding? My dressing room. In
Oh, I'm thinking
Fresno
about
was
Redding.
A
I'm thinking about
billion
Redding.
degrees.
Oh, I'm thinking about
Were
Redding.
you upstairs?
Okay.
Fresno was the one where we couldn't use some of the dressing rooms because they were doing like a town hall in the
that's where
morning.
town hall.
Yeah.
I remember
Right.
that venue because we did a New Year's show
We
there,
didn't show there.
and we did the New Year's show there, and it was, I don't know what year this was, probably 2010 or 11, but we also watched Ohio State and Indiana play basketball.
How do you remember that?
I don't know, I just do, and we won that game, and it was really cool because we won.
So it was nice to go back to Fresno. I feel like we did a lot of shows there early on,
We did.
like in our life as a touring band. Hadn't been there in a while, but it's always nice to go back there. And the next night we go to Redding, California. Redding was another one of those where I knew that we had been there before, but I didn't have a lot of recollection
I had
of
zero.
the
Zero.
the
right?
venue or the city.
I remembered it.
Like, anything about that show that like
Pouring
that
rain
stuck
all
out to you
day.
guys?
Yeah, it rained the whole
We went to that
day.
cool gym where we saw that girl doing those crazy gymnast moves up on that high bar.
I'm a walk guy. I like to walk for
Yeah.
about, I usually like to walk like an hour a day just to clear my mind, listen to a podcast, do my time to be with
Yeah.
myself. And that day it was pouring rain, so I was like, the gym is the venue is letting us go to this gym for free, so I'm gonna go to this gym and do some workout, do a couple weight things and a couple
Yeah.
bike things. Yeah.
Isn't that something you think too, Walt?
It's just positive energy. You know what I mean? Like it's improving. It does take some work, even though like we've got so much time. It does take some work to do it because every day is checking into a new place, a new dressing room, a new where's catering, a new is there laundry, a new where's the gym, what time is the show, like what it just like that sort of like getting your mind in that space. But once you get to the gym, like you never regret.
I've never
going.
heard anybody say it like that. It's every morning like you're checking into somewhere different.
Yeah, it's true.
That's a good way to put it. It's like you're checking in to a new room every day.
And that whole
That's
week
really
was
cool.
like places that we had not usually gone to.
Right.
This week we go to Erie, we know what you're getting.
yeah.
DC, we've been there a billion times. Easton, we've been there so many times. Same thing
Yeah.
with, you know what your day is going to be like, how easy is the gym, what the food situation is, how the dressing rooms are. That whole week was like chaos. It was places that we haven't been to in a long
And it
time.
was just a downpour every day.
Yeah.
Just raining.
It's like when you get up and the bus driver's like, "Hey, which way is it to the venue?" And they
Yeah.
point.
That's
They
like
point.
the Europe tours where you're
Yeah.
like, because it's like not theaters, right? It's like clubs.
Yeah.
And like we would
Yeah.
just be parked on a street and you get off the bus in Europe and you're just like, I have
And
literally
you think you're walking into the venue, but it's actually just a bar.
like I have literally
Sure.
zero
Yeah,
idea
sure.
where I am, where I'm going. I don't speak the language. England's tough.
And Redding, California was much like that.
And the people at the gym had a baby there, and the baby was barefoot, walking around the gym barefoot.
Hey, he was
No.
grounding himself.
Oregon. I think it was Oregon.
That is disgusting, but all
Okay.
that baby's in the
Segi does
ground
not like
is,
feet.
is ringworm. No,
He also hates babies.
no, I'm the only one looking out for the baby. Okay. Any of you guys watching or listening will agree. Would you let your baby walk barefoot in a gym where adults
No.
are, and it was like a grimy gym. It wasn't like a
Fine.
like Equinox. It's not fine.
Fine gym.
No. 100,000,000%
Nobody-
never let a baby walk barefoot.
Nobody wants
ever.
their baby to get MRSA. It just
That baby has
nobody wants
ringworm
that.
for sure. And it's the parents' fault. And I'm the only one that cares. I should call Child Protective Services.
Yeah, you should. But it was a great show that night.
Anyway,
it was a good. No, I mean, everybody who comes after the shows on the West Coast, as we're going through the signing line and stuff, ask them if it's their first time. They're like,
Yeah.
no, it's our sixth time or it's our third time, whatever.
I could see that happen.
It's just so cool to see
Love to
people
hear
come back
that.
to the show, even in the areas that like we don't really frequent a ton. So that was cool. So the next day we go up to Oregon. We go to Salem, Oregon, 40 miles away from Portland. So a suburb, a little bit more than a suburb, but it was a cool town. The venue was a kind of like a historic landmark, a haunted thing in a way.
Similar to
Yeah.
Wilmington.
But the one thing I thought about that day was it was the end of the week as we're going into Thanksgiving, and we're switching out the song that we're doing on the off mic. So the off mic song we do at the very end of the show. So we're switching that out, and we're doing "Oh Holy Night" now. And it was about 3 days before our break. As we're going in, we know that we wanted to have "Oh Holy Night" in the show after we get back from Thanksgiving. Walt, you arranged that song, not having done it for a year, having Luke Bob learning a new part. I wanted to ask you just what were your thoughts as we're going into a new kind of version of this song, a new kind of iteration of the song, just with a new group. How do you go about that as you're
Can I
as you're
kind
kind
of
of learning and teaching that?
preempt to that question of when you first started arranging that song for a song that's been so popular among Christmas time? You were gonna do this song "A Holy Night." Your approach to the song arrangement wise, and then go into what Mike said.
At my high school, every winter concert for the chorus, the honor solo, which is like every senior auditions to get the chance to sing "Oh Holy Night" as like a featured soloist with the choir. So that was like where that came from. That was that's one of my favorite songs. So when we were going to do it, I'd done Auld Lang Syne on Holiday Spirits, and Oh Holy was also around the same time, and I was trying to do more of the R&B type of vibe, and I remember having that ooh yeah, like
Right,
that
yeah,
gospel. It
sure.
was definitely Take Six inspired.
Yeah.
So that's where that came from, and then that having that that's it's naturally in 6/8. So like having that snap with it, and that's where the section came from. So yeah, it was based off of like a gospel, but also thinking about like a backbeat R&B type of thing. With bringing it back, by the time we get to anytime we bring back a song that we've done prior, it's always good I'm always thinking during the 30 times we're doing it on tour, I wish that this was happening different, but I'm not going to constantly disrupt every sound check with a note on the same song. You know what I mean? Even though like I like to do like big sweeping, like we did a thing right before we taped the video for Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. I was like, all the melody guys, this is way we need to approach it. We need to be thinking about this swung. I sent out practice tapes. We did it in a couple sound checks. That's the way I think about let's make this song holistically better. Same thing with Old Holy Night. I always feel like the hardest thing with these off mics is we're constantly hearing our rhythm in our ears, and when we get off, like we just fall apart. And it's not, if we did an entire show like that, which we did for years all through college, and then when we first got together, like rhythm is an issue because you're singing live, and it should be an issue. It should feel like it has form with it, but at the same time, like in my head, I wish that it had a little bit more of that groove to it. So that's what I came at. It was like I had a couple of cutoffs that I wanted us to do, and because since Luke Bob is like the glue of that with his part, he was bringing out he was reminding me that the importance of the vibe and the rhythm with that. So just trying to think of what, as the 8 of us who have done it before, can improve to make that better. And then also, obviously, like it was not something that, it wasn't a bass part that naturally came to Luke Bob. It took several days. We were actually delayed it by a day when we came back in Columbus. We were supposed to start it, and I threw up the flag and said, let's wait another day to do it. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Steve also sings the bass part on this. I don't know if a lot of people know that, but Steve, he doubles as, he can sing the high falsetto stuff, he can sing bass, he can sing baritone, all that stuff. Was it a little more comforting knowing that you had Steve, who already knew the bass part, to, not that Luke Bob needs help with anything, but just as the arranger, was there any sort of comfort knowing that, okay, there was a guy who already knew the bass part that you wrote, already had that like in his bag, that could
Safety net.
kind of a safety net in a way. Yeah.
It's more helpful because Steve knew the bass part better than I did. I had to go look at old videos from last year and be like, because my original arrangement from the album is different than what it is we do now, in different phrasings, and in the bass part there's words where there aren't words, or cutoffs where there aren't cutoffs. So Steve knowing that helped a lot.
Right. Yeah. So that was a cool day. We, like, it's not every day that like all of us get together to work on songs, other than if it's our sound check or whatever. So that's always a cool time when everyone gets together, about a half an hour before sound check, before dinner or whatever. But that's a great show. Love the audience in Oregon. They're always so great. So the next day we go to Airway Heights, which is in Washington. We had never been there before. It's a casino
On a reservation.
out on an Indian reservation. It's a really nice venue. All the hospitality was great. It was great for Luke Bob to be in his home state. Even though we were going to Seattle the next day,
The hotel shower.
there was a part
amazing.
of that show. He was in Washington. He was from Washington. Like,
It's Jasper's birthday.
the
too.
idea, but the show was in like a ballroom, so it wasn't a typical theater that we're used to. I feel like for me sometimes that can, just seeing it, looking out, I feel like I'm in a conference room, like I'm
You are
at a
Very
business
much-
mean or something.
very much in a conference room.
Yeah,
I
but
don't like
like,
those kind of venues.
I don't like him either, but I felt the audience was really good and they were hype. Oh, that day was when Indiana played Ohio State. We
Yeah,
lost.
it
That's
was-
okay. It's okay. Was there anything about that show that stuck out? to you
Jasper
guys?
and Yonine's birthday.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
That's
It
right.
was. And small backstage, but we had rooms that day, so it was not too bad.
I went to that sports bar and watched Indiana lose.
Yeah, we did.
But it was like a week, 2 weeks leading up to that of just being like, okay,
Yeah.
where are we going to be able to watch the
Yeah,
game?
right,
We
right,
found that
right.
sports bar. It
Yeah.
was unbelievable. They put the sound on. There's just this massive thing.
Right.
And then it was just like the worst thing ever.
Yep.
Yeah.
Put some posters up.
Yeah. So that was great.
Chalked the hallway.
Chalk the sidewalk.
They're like, sir, the chalk's not showing up, and please stop doing that.
After Airway Heights, we go to Seattle, Washington. Seattle was the Sunday before Thanksgiving break at the Moore Theater, a place that we've all been back to, that we all enjoy very much. The theater is an older theater, but it's right downtown.
Yeah.
A lot of action, like a lot of stuff going on around there.
I prefer the
Uh,
other Seattle venues.
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
play there.
Yes.
That's my least favorite of the three, but that's obvious.
Paramount is the other one that's there, and also McCaw Hall, which is another one. But
We're going to Paramount.
but there was a funny
Everyone.
story about the show. At the end of our show, after the encore, 12 days, Walt, if
No, it's just before that.
the crowd is loud enough, then we do encores. And in one of the intros, there was something going on where a
it was
guy
when we
came
were
up.
doing our names, and Steve was the last guy.
It was during the intros. Okay.
It was when Steve was up there, and he was trying to be like, "Hey, thanks for coming. We're going to do a live stream. Here's the information, all the stuff." Some guy from the front row got up, and he was clearly blacked out of his mind. just stood at the front of the stage trying to get Steve's attention. Like I'm talking like he was like a foot and a half away from Steve. And he stood there for a good 90 seconds. And I don't even blame that guy because he was out of his wits. Like he had no control over what his body was doing at that point. But like the security did nothing, literally zero, like zero movement. And the dude was standing right there. Like the security guard was standing right there, just watching, didn't do anything. Like that to me, that is like such an embarrassment. Like that is like that can't happen. That cannot happen. God knows what that guy could have done. Thankfully, it was nothing. It was just a drunk guy. But dude, get that guy back in his seat or out of the room. That's unacceptable. And Steve's trying to talk, and this guy's like kind of muttering something, like asking for another song and not really saying words because he was so drunk. But it was just like, man, what is the security guard doing?
Yeah.
That to me was like, I was mind boggling because usually security guards like are looking for action, right?
Yeah. But even when
Bouncers.
people take pictures, they're like, no pictures, no whatever.
They want the action.
They want the
They're
fun.
like,
Yeah.
please,
Let me do something.
yes, F around and find out. Like, please F around so you can find out.
Yeah.
But this dude was just like, all right, man, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Cool. You want to
It-
stab
but
Steve?
but
Go
it
ahead.
ended okay. Like I actually think Fredo told me afterwards that it was after the off mic he saw him in the front because after the off mic's over we out there waving and stuff, and he said he walked up to him and said something like, "Hey man, like you can't do that." Awesome.
It's falling on deaf ears.
That's
Like,
awesome. Yeah.
Falling on drunk ears.
Yeah.
But but it's a great show. Seattle's a great show.
And the woman he was with,
Yeah.
when Jasper was doing his dad jokes and stuff, whatever, he commented on this person in the crowd, like, "Oh, like you're all dressed up for the holidays. You look cute." It was a little kid, and the lady was just like, "She's famous too." And
That the guy was with. Yeah.
and Jasper was just like in a really bad lose situation because
She said it loud enough that the entire
Yeah,
crowd could hear
it
what
was
she
quiet and when she said it, and everyone heard, and Jasper was just like, "Great, like,
Great.
I don't know what you want me to
Yeah.
do right now. Cool."
He goes, great.
But yeah,
Very
but it was
sweet.
that couple was very disruptive.
Yeah.
But thanks for coming, guys.
Yeah. So that was a great show in Seattle, and
We got to see our boy Steiny.
we got to see a boy
And a Lodi.
Steinberg. Yeah.
And it was as close as we've been to Luke Bob. And
Oh
true.
yeah.
I will say in all of our years, I don't think I've ever heard a crowd cheer
Oh my
for
gosh.
any of us
Oh yeah.
like that crowd cheered for
Mhm.
Luke Bob.
Yeah, it was
we were
crazy.
It
all
was
about it.
nuts. When he did Johnny Cash and finished it,
Yeah.
it was legit rock star, man. It was
Yeah.
so cool. His family and his buddies are loving
yeah.
and genuine.
Amazing.
It was so inspiring. I
Yeah.
loved that show for Luke Bob, but for me too, it was just
Yeah.
so great to see him embraced by that entire theater and that show. It was so awesome.
Like I feel like it was like a lot of the first time that like any of them saw him like in that light. They all knew that he was always a singer. He's in New York. He's
Yeah.
you know
but
doing all
now
this
they got
stuff,
to see it in
but
the
they got to
flesh.
see it. Yeah, and that's always a great any show that's right before a week off. I think we're all going to be like, that was really fun, just because we're all in that kind of energy, and then we spend a week off as we go in for Thanksgiving, and so we're off the whole week, which is really nice for us all to go home and be with our families. And then on Friday after the Thanksgiving holiday, we go to Columbus, Ohio. And what one thing that we found out when we got to Ohio was there was an unexpected visitor on the other bus
God.
who made the trip from Seattle to Columbus, Ohio.
A stowaway, if you will.
A stowaway on
Not
the
a
other
human
bus.
person.
Seggy and Tyler and I are on the same bus. Walt used to run us. Now he's on the other bus. So on Walt's bus, there was a stowaway who hopped a ride from Seattle all the way to Columbus. And I think you were the one, Walt, who actually might have seen this little stowaway for the first time, or am I wrong about that? But anyway, can you tell the story? Like what exactly happened here?
Yeah. So I was grabbing something out of the drawer. We've got this kitchenette in the front lounge of our bus, and I opened a drawer, And
Like
there
when you got to
was-
Columbus, this is right.
we were
when
in
you-
Columbus. Yeah, it was
Columbus,
the
which is
afternoon.
the Friday after we get.
It was
got back.
like
Yeah.
I want to say 5 or 6 o'clock, so
Okay.
it's a couple hours before. And I opened the drawer, and there was a mouse. And I'm not talking about, it wasn't like a tiny boy. It was in the drawer.
Big guy.
Yeah. And he climbed through the back of the drawer and went. Now imagine you're just opening a drawer. Like you're not expecting
Yeah,
to see something
no, no,
alive
no.
in there. You know what I mean? So the thing went behind the cabinet. Like he's in the back of the bus. Now, long story short, there is a trash bin that goes down. When the driver opens the trash bin, things can get in and out. If you're not paying attention, I wish they were paying attention, but that's what happened. So the mouse got in there. Now I didn't know what to do. And for the guys who know me, Segi said it right away when he heard it. I'm good with, I took a part of a shed in the back of my yard this past summer, and there were spiders all over me, and that doesn't bother me. But I am frightened of mice. I am not afraid to say it. So for me to discover that, I started texting our bus. I was like, all right, I'm going to start taking because Rick, our driver, had a Thanksgiving feast, and he had a pecan pie sitting out on the counter and all of these other food. So
This mouse is going.
so I started taking food and putting it into the fridge and up above the cabinets. And I texted the bus. I was like, okay, I've cleared everything out, but even with gloves, I am not putting my
Oh my
hand into that drawer,
goodness.
because in that drawer was all of our chocolate. There was fudge that came from things. And I was like, I'm not putting my hand in there to get all this stuff out. I know he's not going to be there when I do it, but I was like, I couldn't do it. So Peter, our assistant tour manager,
Yeah.
Peter, he came out and he did it. He took all of the stuff out of that drawer and put it in the Tupperwares. And so that night, as the mouse did not come out, we rode from Columbus to Midland and I had the light on in my bunk, and I kept waking up every 30
I would
minutes.
not have been able. I told Walt I would not have been able. I would have been off. Oh, dude, are you kidding? I would have been off that bus.
So you would have
No-
taken a flight from
no,
Columbus
I
to
would have
Midland.
walked, bro. No chance. I'm riding on a bus with a mouse.
So for the closure of the story, the next day in Midland, we had bought glue traps and had glue traps in the drawer. So again, now that these 3 guys know that I'm on the bus more than anybody else, that's just where I like to be. And I went on the bus, and I knew that we had a glue trap in that same drawer, and I opened the drawer, and lo and behold, the mouse is in the thing. And it happened because I looked in the drawer at 3 o'clock. After the show at 10:30, I go back and open it up, and there he is in the glue trap.
Got him.
And I'm on the bus, and I'm like, I had talked a little smack that said if we catch it, I'll be the one to finish it off. Couldn't do it. Peter picked up the glue trap, brought him outside, and because you don't want the thing to he's in the glue trap, so we helped put it to its final resting
rest.
place.
So Fievel went east and not west.
If you give a mouse a tour bus,
Ever since then, it's still affecting me. The fact that where there is one mouse, there might be more. So the past 2, I'm still shook. Like I open up that drawer every single time. I just was on the bus getting dinner. I did the same thing. I think there is nothing left because, but we've been riding buses for 15 years.
This never
It
happened.
never happened.
Never happened.
Ever.
Unbelievable.
It was awful.
It's an indictment on Seattle. Why don't you clean your city up, man? Clean your city up.
to be fair, the mouse could have jumped on at any point
Any
between
point,
Seattle
yeah.
and
I
Columbus.
don't know, man.
Parking lot.
I think it was Seattle.
It could have been.
Let's just go with that.
Our drivers in those 3 days rode.
Yeah, that's
through
what they
some of the
said, right?
worst-
They said that
some
that
of the
he
worst
thinks it
weather
was-
ever.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
I doubt
though.
that a mouse. I don't know.
Wow, that is so funny. He made the trip, no clue. He thought he was like, I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna get some food,
Oh yeah.
I'm
all
gonna
the
hang
food,
out, and all
yeah.
of a sudden, wait, we're leaving. Whoops, and now I'm dead a week later. Like he died a week later. Died a week later. It was like, but you ate good for
Yeah.
a week,
You got
bro.
to hang out with Straight No Chaser.
You ate good for a week. That's a good story. So after Midland, Michigan, which is when you killed the mouse, or not you, but Peter killed the mouse. That was a great show. Your family was there.
My family was there. My
Yeah.
parents were there. Jamie and the kids were there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good
But
time.
you weren't feeling well, right? Your voice.
No, I was
kinda
feeling
feel-
fine. I just
no.
woke up with no voice. So
Yeah.
that was
We took out one of your songs.
No, we took it out a Saturday, or did we take it out Sunday? Which one?
Saturday.
Appleton?
just in Midland.
Okay, cool.
That's poor timing.
So
Yeah, it
after
was.
Midland,
We'll see
Michigan,
for
we
sure.
go to Appleton, Wisconsin, which you're listening. If you listen to the pod before, I feel like we've all said that whenever we go to Wisconsin, there's
Oh,
just
yeah, that's right.
all the support,
Crowds.
whether it's
Yeah.
Madison, whatever. And Appleton was no different. It was so great. It's a great venue.
Very, very big day for me.
It was your birthday,
Yeah.
your
Big-
40th
big
birthday. It was
4-0.
Tyler's 40th
Big
birthday.
4-0, yeah.
So
big day
fun. We
for
had a
me.
cake for him backstage. It was great.
My parents came. It was awesome.
Yeah. Good show.
Tyler made us sing happy birthday to him on stage.
Yeah.
Do it.
Actually,
know.
we made the crowd sing happy birthday to
Oh,
Tyler, and
yeah,
they
too
did.
kind,
That was
too
fun.
kind,
We should
too kind.
start doing that like every night, and it's just
Not
It's
as
just like
matter.
when you go to a restaurant, you
Yeah.
keep telling them
Oh, the free
Yeah.
Is that
dessert.
just me?
No, it was great. Appleton was great. It's always a
Got
always
your
great
boy
show.
Don Kronberg,
So good.
promoter. Him and his wife Yvonne, they were celebrating their
right.
anniversary.
That's right.
He's our promoter in Appleton and in some of the Iowa shows and some Illinois shows.
Decatur usually.
And then last night, so as we're taping this, it is a Tuesday. Last night was Monday night, the 2nd of December. We were in Evansville, Indiana, which is random for us to do a show on a Monday and have a day off on a Tuesday.
Yeah,
That
I don't
hasn't
think-
happened.
I
That
don't
hasn't
think that's ever
happened.
happened.
I don't think that's happened a bunch,
I
but
think the last time we did a Monday show in the fall tour, not counting the Hershey private thing last year, was when Christmas fell. The indie shows right before Christmas, we did 2 Saturday, 2 Sunday, 1 Monday,
Mhm.
and then went home for Christmas.
Well,
right,
Grand Rapids is a Monday this year, isn't it?
right.
yes,
And that's another random.
but
that's
that's
another.
because of Christmas.
That's another weird thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah, an
Evansville was
out of the blue Monday show like this is
yes, it was.
summer. It might happen.
Yeah.
it was great being like Evansville at the old National Center. I feel like it's like an annual show for us.
Joe, shout out to Tom and the Bourbon Blog.
Yes,
Always fun to see
Tom
that
Bird
guy.
blog, and we got to see the Morgans
Yeah.
and to see
Smith,
Steve's
Jasper's
mom and dad. Yeah, that's right, Jasper.
They didn't stay
His
though
parents.
because Jasper was pretty mean to them.
Yeah,
from the stage.
they said they didn't
They-
like him anymore and they left.
they left
Yeah, Jasper
immediately.
made a joke about them from the stage.
Whoopsies.
What was the joke anyway? You guys.
It
you guys-
was
Jasper said, "Go ahead."
no, you go ahead.
Jasper said that at intermission, he was like, "You know what's great about having your parents at a show is I got 2 texts from each of them saying that I needed to fix my tie." So he said when he went up for his last intro, he was like, said that setup. He was like, "I'm glad you guys could see that from your free seats." And then Steve went up and he was like, "My parents are here, and I love you so much, and I would never
I would
treat you
never
the
talk
way
about-
Jasper did." 'Cause we know better than that, not like those Vincennes people
That's amazing.
or some along those
Yeah.
lines. It was great.
No, it's always good to do shows in Indiana. Actually, last night was the first night this year that we have done Indiana Christmas. As you guys know, if you listen, if you see the shows, that's a song we only do when we're in Indiana.
Yeah, we have a new poster for it too.
And we have a new poster for
Yeah.
Indiana. Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit. Sorry, go ahead.
We have an Indiana Christmas poster.
What does it mean,
What does it mean?
and where are we selling it?
We only sell things at the merch table, and you can only get it at our shows in Indiana, and it's exclusive. We printed 100 of them, and Steve Morgan knows calligraphy because obviously he does, right?
Yeah, it's got
And he numbered them each
1 through 100.
1 through 100. We actually just wrote 1 on all of them.
But what it is a picture of the state of Indiana, and the lyrics of Indiana Christmas are within the state of Indiana. So it's really cool.
And that was Walt's
Right.
idea.
Well,
But a weird thing
Thanks.
about the numbering of the posters. So last night after the show, I was like, "Peter, how many do we sell of the Indiana Christmas poster?" He was, "I think we sold 11." I was like, "I saw 13, so we had to have sold at least 13." He was like, "No, people are asking me for specific numbers,"
Hey, don't do that if you're listening. to
which
this,
caught us all by
It's
surprise because
so weird.
usually you want the one closest to 1, right? Isn't that the goal when you buy something numbered? Yeah, asking for a specific unless you're like you have like a lucky number and like you
Yeah.
revolve your entire life around it.
but still don't do that.
Yeah.
That
yeah,
too.
don't do that. Yeah.
If you're OCD and you have to do like everything in like sevens,
Don't
Like-
buy the poster.
I have to touch the door handle 7 times before I open it. I have to unlock it and lock it 7 times.
Yeah.
I need poster number 7. Like, you're getting 3.
Man,
Yeah.
it's been a great last couple of weeks as we're moving ahead here. Always appreciate everyone listening. And I was just say, Walt, it's been so nice having you here, man. Like I feel like a lot of people know your story, but they didn't really know all of the details and stuff. So it's been nice to have you here and have you go through all that for us. So thank you for
Yeah.
joining.
When are we going to talk about Wicked?
I haven't
Soon
seen
enough.
it. I wanted actually to talk about the Yacht Rock doc, but
We'll have to do it.
that's for
Next
another
time.
time. But as always, oh, I know Segi likes to do something at the end of every pod. He likes to ask. He
take your
likes to
pants
ask
off.
the guest about.
So this is something I stole from Andrew Santino, and he says, just not even to recap the episode, but just one word or phrase you want to leave the viewers and listeners with. Look in the camera and just give them one word or phrase that you want them to go on their way with.
Me say
Yeah.
that?
One word or phrase. It could be anything.
Um,
It could be nonsensical. It could be funny. It could be sincere. It could be anything you want.
stumped him totally. What have other guys said?
I don't-
Jerome said inspired. I think Jasper said chicken tenders.
Fredo said something about,
Be nice or.
All right, it just came to me.
okay.
Pest control.
I love it.
See, there you go. That's perfect. That's perfect.
Oh, what a great one. That's great.
I hate Mike
Because
so much.
Everybody needs to have good pest control because you don't want to.
Oh,
You don't
I
want.
never thought we needed it here.
hanging on
but
your-
We need it here.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's been great having you, man. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks,
Thank
guys.
you. So, as always, guys, we'd like to thank you for listening. We love your support, and we could do this without you. So, as always, if you want to follow us and subscribe, Official Pod. If you have questions, you can write into unofficialpod@gmail.com your name and where you're from, and we'll get to the questions
Yeah.
next week
Next
or
week.
or the week after. As always, you can subscribe, and we hope to see you guys on the road. So for Segi and Tyler and Walter Chase, I am Mike Luganbill, and we will see you guys next time. Thank you for listening. Thanks, guys.